Hello listeners, this video will discuss The God of Small Things, a novel written by Arundhati Roy. This is a family drama novel which is debut novel for Arundhati Roy until her next novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness in the year 2017. Debut novel meaning the first novel of the author. Her second novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, was published in the year 2017, which is 20 years later to God of Small Things, because God of Small Things was published in the year 1997. The God of Small Things was a bestseller in 21 countries after its release. This novel is winner of the 1997 Man Booker Prize for Fiction. So as Roy has won this novel, she becomes the first Indian woman to win the award. This novel is written in a non-sequential narrative. This novel is a patchwork of flashbacks, and it has lengthy flashbacks that weave together to tell the story of the Ayemenem family. And the story unfolds complex history of memories that appears in Rahel's mind. Rahel is one of the twins in the novel. She is also the protagonist of the novel. The novel's narrative voice is grounded in Rahel's perspective, and the elements in the novel episodes the key moments in Rahel's life. This novel is narrated in the third person. The readers can see everything that Rahel experiences. Let us see the setting of this novel. The story is set in the village Ayemenem in the Kottayam district of Kerala, India. The novel takes place in the year 1969, which is referred as a time of changes in ideology and influence. And then in the novel setting, it is a complex mixture of society with various cultural and religious habits and beliefs. The reference to diverse culture and diverse religion is referred in the novel. The different religious people share the same space in the novel. Though the novel refers to diverse society, the novel also points out the strict caste system and class consciousness among the characters. In the novel, there is a reference of higher classes making a point of speaking English. The high class society also send their children to study in England, and they also adopt certain English habits. As this novel is set in Kerala, it has a complex social setup with religious people like Hindu, Muslim, Christian. All these religion people display different lifestyles and tradition. Particularly in Kerala, Kerala also has the largest Christian population. Predominantly, it holds Saint Thomas Christians or Syrian Christians. In the Kottayam district, Christians are a majority. Arundhati Roy herself is a Syrian Christian. The novel also holds some autobiographical elements. Some of the similarities between Roy's life and that of the characters in the novel include her own Syrian Christian faith and Hindu lineage. And other autobiographical elements are the divorce of her parents when she and her brother were very young, her return to the family home in Ayemenem after her mother's divorce. She takes up her education in architectural school. Many critics say that this novel, The God of Small Things, is drawn from the early life influences from Roy's mother. Her mother was an activist and a feminist. This novel in the year 2019, it was listed in BBC News on its list of the 100 most influential novels. And in the year 2002, the novel was included on the Big Jubilee Read list of 70 books by Commonwealth authors, which is selected to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee of Elizabeth II. Adaptations like TV series were inspired from this novel. The name of it is Talikian in the year 2013, which is a Pakistani television series based on the novel. Let us see a small note about the author. Susanna Arundhati Roy, born in the year 1961. She's an Indian author who's best for her novel, The God of Small Things. This book won the Booker Prize for Fiction in the year 1997. Apart from her writing career, she's also a political activist who voices for human rights and environmental causes. Roy's parents are from different regions because Roy was born in Shillong, Meghalaya, India. Her mother name is Mary Roy. She's a Malayali Jacobite Syrian Christian who fights for women's rights. She's an activist from Kerala. And her father, Rajib Roy, he's a Bengali Hindu who works in tea plantation and he's a manager from Calcutta. As I earlier mentioned, when Roy was just 2 years old, her parents got divorced and she returned to Kerala with her mother and brother. Along with her brother and mother, she lived with her maternal grandfather in Ooty, Tamil Nadu. And then when she became 5 years old, the family moved back to Kerala when her mother started a school there. Earlier to her work God of Small Things, Roy has written screenplays for In Which Annie Gives It Those Ones in the year 1981, which is a movie based on her experiences as a student of architecture. She has also appeared as a performer in Electric Moon in the year 1992. Electric Moon was an Indian film directed by Pratap Krishan, and this film is written by Arundhati Roy. Let us have a small overview of the novel. This novel is centered on a family tragedy which has emotional and psychological evolution of the fraternal twins named Rahel and Estha. The novel is set in Ayemenem, which is a remote coastal town in Kerala, which is in southwestern India. The events in the novel happens in the year 1969, and in that year the twins were around 7 years age. During that time, there was an accidental involvement of their British cousin. Rahel and Estha's mother is Ammu. The novel is grounded in the relationship between two sets of siblings in the Aib family. First is Ammu and her brother Chacko, and then Ammu's children, they are fraternal. It is Estha, who's known as Estha, and Rahel. Before we move in, let us see the characters of the novel. Rahel, who is one of the twins and the protagonist of the novel. Rahel is an energetic and imaginative girl. She is very close with her twin brother, Estha. Rahel is separated from her twin brother, Estha. When she grows old, she marries Larry McCaslin. She then moves to America. Later, she divorced him. At the age of 31, Rahel returns to Ayemenem to see her brother Estha again. Estepin Yako Aib, who is otherwise called as Estha, he is another twin and the protagonist of the novel. He is a most serious and well-behaved than his sister Rahel. Estha lives with his alcoholic father Baba. After 23 years old, Baba returns Estha to Ayemenem, and there Estha and Rahel reunite. Ammu is the mother of the twins. She is an independent woman and a loving mother. Ammu grows in patriarchal Indian society. Her father Pappachi is cruel to her as well as to his wife Mammachi. And in order to escape from her parents, especially from her father, she marries Baba and escapes from Ayemenem. Unfortunately, Baba was an abusive alcoholic, so Ammu left him after the twins were born. When Ammu divorced her husband, she is found disgraced by the Indian society. Later, she also had a love affair with the untouchable Velutha. After the death of Sophie Mol, Ammu returns Estha to Baba. Baba is the husband of Ammu because she could not afford to keep both the twins with her. Ammu then dies of lung disease. Naomi Ipe, otherwise called as Baby Kochamma. Baby Kochamma is the younger sister of Pappachi. They are a staunch Syrian Christian. Kochamma loves Father Mulligan when she was young. As baby Kochamma could not express her love for Mulligan, she grows bitter and as a jealous woman. She also betrays her niece Ammu and her niece twins in order to save herself. Kochamma is unmarried throughout her life. She watches television all day long. Chacko is Ammu's brother. He receives privilege than Ammu because Ammu's wishes were not heard and it was all denied. Chacko went to Oxford and became a Rhodes Scholar, London. He then married Margaret Kochamma, but Margaret Kochamma left him after their daughter Sophie Mol was born. Chacko then returns to Ayemenem and takes over Paradise Pickles. Paradise Pickles and Preserves is a pickle factory which is next to the Ipe house. Chacko supports Marxism and he acts as a typical landlord with traditional caste prejudices. Velutha is a Parian, referred as untouchable. He grew in love with Ammu. He is an excellent carpenter and he fixes all the machines in the pickle factory. But he is treated as a second class citizen. He is a handsome young man and he is beloved by the two twins of Ammu. The tragedy of the novel is with this character Velutha because he is betrayed by Ammu and he dies brutally. Next is Pappachi. His full name is Sri Binan John Ipe, who's the husband of Mammachi. He's an imperial entomologist. He discovers a new species of moth. Entomologist is a person who studies or is an expert in the branch of zoology who's concerned with insects. Pappachi is a cruel person. He viciously beats Mammachi and Ammu, but in the public he acts like a kind husband and a good father. This novel has 21 chapters and this video contains the whole summary of the novel. The events in the novel are revealed in fragmentary manner as I earlier mentioned. It is in non-sequential order and it mostly jumps back and forth between the scenes in 1969 and 1993. And the story is also scattered with many flashbacks throughout. The story is centered around the wealthy, land-owning Syrian Christian Ipe family of Ayemenem, which is a town in Kerala, India. And most of the plot occurs in the year 1969. The plot focuses on the 7-year-old twins, Estha and Rahel, who are the children of Ammu and Baba. Estha and Rahel live with their mother Ammu and with their grandmother Mammachi, with their uncle Chacko and their great aunt baby Kochamma. There is a backstory that happens before 1969 where Mammachi was married to Pappachi. Pappachi is an imperial entomologist who beats his wife and daughter Ammu cruelly. And in the year 1969, Pappachi is dead and Mammachi goes blind. Behind their house, there is the Minachal River and Pappachi's pickle factory, which is named as Paradise Pickles and Preserves. In the novel, baby Kochamma is always bitter and a jealous woman because she was not married, but she had a love affair with an Irish missionary. He is named Father Mulligan. Since she could not hold the hand of the Irish missionary, she stays bitter and jealous throughout her life. Ammu's wishes are unnoticed by her father, Pappachi, whereas her brother Chacko, he went to Oxford and studied there, and also married Margaret Kochamma, an English woman. They had a daughter named Sophie Mol. Margaret then unites with Joe, a new man. Chacko then returned to Ayemenem and took over the pickle factory. Ammu, as she was living in a cruel environment with her father Pappachi and with her aunt baby Kochamma, she wanted to escape from Ayemenem, so she married Baba and she escapes from Ayemenem. But Baba turned out to be an abusive alcoholic. She then begets two children, Rahel and Estha. After the kids' birth, she moved to Ayemenem. In the wider society of Kerala, which is filled with the Communist Party, the Communist Party gains power and is threatened to overthrow landlords like the Ipes. The Ipes, they are a community. They live near an untouchable family that includes Velutha. Untouchable is the senior caste than the Ipes. Velutha is a young man who works for Chacko and he is beloved with Ammu's twin children, Rahel and Estha. The novel has a main action after Sophie Mol's visit to Ayemenem. Joe is the second husband of Margaret Kochamma, that is Sophie Mol's mother and the wife of Chacko. Joe dies in an accident and Chacko invites Margaret Kochamma to Ayemenem for the holidays. There, Estha, Rahel, Ammu, Chacko and baby Kochamma take a trip to the airport, and on their way, their car is trapped by a communist march. The family then goes to see The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music is a film, and there Estha was molested by the orange drink, lemon drink man. He's an ugly older man who works in the movie theater and he molested Estha. He's a vendor in the theater too. The following day, Margaret and Sophie arrive to Ayemenem. Later, Estha always had the fear that the orange drink man will come for him. So he and Rahel find a boat and row across the river to the history house, which is the abandoned home of an Englishman who went native. The twins set up a hideout there. Meanwhile, Ammu dreams about Velutha. Velutha is an untouchable who lives close by to Ammu's house. And every night she and Velutha meet by the river. For the following 2 weeks, they keep meeting often. Velutha's father is Velleya Papen. He comes to Mammachi and confesses his son's relationship with Mammu. Mammachi and baby Kochamma, they lock Ammu in her room where she screams, and in those days when she is inside the room locked up, she finds her peace from her children, Estha and Velutha. And as Estha and Velutha along with their mother is locked inside the room, they then decide to run away to the history house where they earlier went. Sophie Mol also joins them. Their boat tips over as they cross the river and Sophie Mol unfortunately drowned. The twins reach shore and they are terrified, and then they fall asleep in the history house and they are unaware that Velutha is there with them. The children Estha and Rahel, they aren't aware about Sophie Mol's unfortunate drowning inside the river. Baby Kochamma goes to the police and reports to Inspector Thomas Matthew that Velutha tried to rape Ammu and kidnapped the children. There were 6 policemen who found Velutha and they beat him brutally in front of Estha and Rahel. Later, Thomas Matthew finds out that Velutha is innocent. He then threatens to charge baby Kochamma. Baby Kochamma is terrified and she convinces Estha to report as if Velutha killed Sophie Mol. So she said to Esther that she will be saving Ammu, and so Esther had to admit it in front of the policeman. Velutha is repeatedly punished by the police and he dies in jail that night. And after the funeral of Sophie Mol, baby Kochamma convinces Chacko to throw Ammu out of the house. She also says that Ammu's child Esther had to be returned to Ammu's husband Baba. Esther is now taken by his father Baba. The twins are now separated for almost 23 years, during which Esther stops speaking altogether. Esther becomes 31 and his father Baba returns him to Ayemenem. Meanwhile, Esther's sister Rahel is kicked out of many schools. Ammu, her mother, died when she was 11 years old. Rahel, finishing her schooling, she marries an American who lives in Boston. The couple is then divorced, and as Rahel knows about Esther's return to Ayemenem, she too returns to Ayemenem to meet her brother Esther. The twins get reunited in the year 1993. At that time, Mammachi has died and baby Kochamma and the cook Kochamma, they spend all their day watching TV as the house falls apart. And the history house where once the children visited has now become a five-star hotel. Rahel and Esther, who still doesn't speak, they then examined their notebooks, take long walks along the river, far from anybody, and they talked about their past and they rekindled their closeness. They had reckless conversations. They came to a point to realize that they were not accepted by heart by anybody. The twins then became vulnerable and desperate. They then consummate their feelings, and the taboo act of incest happens there between Rahel and Esther. Committing the act of incest, they had a feeling that they did not find this kind of consolation with anyone else. The symbols used in this novel are Pappachi's moth. The moth was not named after Pappachi, but he is the one who introduced the species. The species is the new one. And since his name wasn't named after the species, he considers this to be the greatest failure in his life, and that this incident haunted the family ever since. That's why Pappachi bursts out of rage and he is abusive towards his wife and daughter. The next symbol is paradise pickles and preserve. This is a pickle factory next to the Ipe house. This becomes a plot point as the laborers of the Paradise Pickles, they talk about Marxism. The pickle factory has a great connection with the Ipe family because in the pickle factory, fruits and vegetables are preserved so that it will last forever. Similarly, the Ipe family tries to preserve their past. Pappachi makes a perfect banana jam in the pickle factory. The themes involved in this novel are family and social obligation. In the Ipe family, the characters in the novel have their own factors in disliking others. The twins in the novel see almost them as one person because their closeness is a shelter from the harsh political and social forces of the world. The relationship with their mother Ammu is complex because Ammu is both a loving mother and an unpredictable mother. Observing the character of Mammachi, she has a different opinion with Chacko and Ammu because she gets along with all the decision made by Chacko. Just because Chacko is a male, he is given more privilege than Ammu. The next theme is Indian politics, society and class. In this novel, especially Ipe family, they deal with a variety of social and political influences that causes internal struggle in the family. Marxist ideas has taken root within the characters in the novel. They had a class system of landlords and laborers. There is a special reference to Velutha from Ipe family, and also the laborers working in the pickle factory are seen submissive to the Ipe family. The Ipe family is a Christian Syrian family. Characters like Mammachi and baby Kochamma use their faith to justify many of their actions. The characters like Estha and Rahel, they are half Hindu and half Syrian Christian because their father is a Hindu. And these characters struggle within their conflicting identity. The sins of Pappachi and Chacko is not bothered or not considered as a huge matter, while Ammu's divorce is disgraced and scorned. Next theme is small things. The author Arundhati Roy emphasizes that small moments, objects, small things in life becomes a bigger things that causes violence in the society. The small things in the novel like Ammu's life, her divorce, baby Kochamma's ununited love affair, Velutha's relationship with Ammu, Estha's and Rahel's relationship, that is incest relationship, are all the matters that happens in the family. Within the family it is considered as a small thing, but in the community as a whole, these are all the bigger things that affect the society and the norms of the society. The next theme is the caste relations and cultural tension. We could observe that this novel is placed in the post-colonial complex structure because there is a cultural attitudes of many Indians towards former British rulers. A reference in the novel where Ammu refers to her father as shit viper in Hindu for his blind devotion to the British. And when Ammu's children are young, Chacko, their uncle, explains to the twins that they come from a family of Anglophiles. In other words, Anglophiles are the lovers of British culture. There is a relatively complex relationship and there is no interactions between untouchables and touchables in Ayemenem. The example of untouchable in the novel are Pappan and his son Velutha, and the touchable caste characters include the Ites family members. There is a caste segregation in the novel internally. The next thing is forbidden love. Baby Kochamma's love is forbidden, as well as Ammu's love for Velutha, and Velutha's love for Ammu is also again forbidden. Next theme is social discrimination. In the novel, the Parayan or the untouchable were not permitted to touch members of higher caste, or they are not allowed to enter the house of the touchables. The untouchables are considered as polluted beings. They are given lowliest jobs and they are not paid good wages. In contrast, the Ites are considered upper class. They are the dominating class. They also own factories and the owners of factories. The next theme is betrayal. Betrayal is a constant element in the story. Velutha is forsaken and is betrayed and put to death. The next theme is misogyny and women in India. There is a constant discrimination with the character Ammu. Men in India are given opportunities and they are considered privileged and they are celebrated by the entire family and society. The example of men character in the novel is Chacko. Ammu, she is never loved or never she is heard by anyone in the family, and since she is neglected, she had to start a love affair with Velutha. Hope this video helps. If you have query, please write it down. We appreciate and welcome your suggestion for your choice of topics to be discussed in this channel. Thank you for listening.